Hello, Mom. We're leaving for Paris tomorrow. I sold your beach house and your truck. We needed the money, bye, she said, hanging up the call. I never thought my daughter could do this to me. She sold my beach house, my late husband's old truck, and left me with nothing. But what she faced after that betrayal changed everything. I'm Margaret Wilson, 71 years old, a widow from a small coastal town near Wilmington, North Carolina, and I thought I knew my life, until my phone buzzed in my purse, shattering everything. I fumbled for it, my hands stiff from years of gardening and worry, and saw my daughter Emily's name on the screen. Her voice came through, sharp and cold, like a January gust off the Atlantic. Mom, we're leaving for Paris tomorrow. I sold your beach house and your truck. We needed the money. Bye. The line went dead before I could draw a breath, her words slicing through me like a jagged oyster shell. After years of raising her, sacrificing every dime, every dream, pouring my heart into her, and she'd discarded me like trash. My chest tightened, my fingers gripped the phone, but I didn't cry. A strange calm settled over me, and a faint smile tugged at my lips. Emily didn't know something that could change everything. Until that moment, I thought I knew my daughter. Now sitting in that sterile waiting room, the world buzzing around me, I realized I'd been blind to who she really was. 6 months ago, my life had already cracked open when my husband, John, died of a heart attack. We were at breakfast, same as every morning for 45 years. In our little kitchen with the faded blue curtains he'd hung when we moved in. He'd poured my coffee, stirred in a splash of cream just how I liked it, and kissed my forehead, his lips warm against my skin. "Good morning, my love," he said, his voice soft as the sunrise filtering through the window. Those were his last words. He clutched his chest, his eyes wide with shock, and was gone before the ambulance could navigate the narrow streets of our coastal town. The grief was a weight I carried everywhere, a shadow that dulled the colors of the world. Since then, Emily had been around more, or so I believed. She'd visit 3 times a week, her brown hair pulled back, her smile bright as she helped with the funeral, drove me to the market, even pushed me to see a doctor for a checkup. "Mom, you've got to take care of yourself now," she'd say, her hand squeezing mine, her eyes soft with what I thought was love. I'd clung to that warmth, thinking it was her way of filling the hole John left. Now her voice on the phone, cold, final, heartless, showed me it was all a lie, a mask hiding something cruel. The beach house was our sanctuary, a weathered white cottage on the North Carolina shore, its porch creaking under the weight of 1,000 memories. John and I bought it when Emily was 15, scraping together every penny from his mechanic's wages and my part-time library job. It was small, the paint chipped by salt and time, but it was ours, a haven where we'd spend summers grilling shrimp John caught, celebrating Emily's birthdays with homemade cakes, stringing Christmas lights that danced against the ocean's dark waves. Emily would bring her friends, then boyfriends, and later her husband, Michael, to share our table. I'd cook platters of cornbread and collards, scrub sand from the floors, wash sheets for everyone, my heart full with the joy of family. I never dreamed she'd see it as a paycheck, something to sell for her own gain. And the truck, John's old Ford pickup, his pride and joy. Every Sunday he'd wash it in our driveway, the hose spraying rainbows in the coastal sun, then check the oil with a care most men save for their children. He'd park it under the big live oak, its branches shading the faded blue paint, and I'd tease him about loving that truck more than me. "Never," he'd grin, pulling me close. Emily knew what that truck meant. It still smelled of him, grease, coffee, the faint salt of the sea. It was the last piece of him I could touch, and she'd sold it like it was nothing. When Emily hung up, I sat frozen in that waiting room, the buzz of voices and the tick of the clock fading to a dull hum. My hands shook, not with tears, but with a storm of emotions, hurt, anger, disbelief. 45 years I'd given her, from the days in our cramped trailer, when John and I worked double shifts, to buy her school clothes, to the nights I stayed up sewing her prom dress, cheering at her graduation, crying at her wedding. She was my only child, my world, my pride. How could she do this? Was it Michael, her husband, whispering in her ear? He'd always looked at me like I was a nuisance, rolling his eyes at my stories, complaining about my cooking at the beach house. Or had Emily always been this way, waiting for a chance to take what was mine? The pain was a knife, twisting deeper with every thought. But something else stirred, a quiet strength I hadn't felt since John's death. Because I remembered something I'd buried in my grief. Something that could change everything. 3 days before John died, he'd handed me a manila envelope. His eyes serious but warm, like he knew something I didn't. "Margaret, keep this in your dresser," he said, his voice low, steady. "If something happens to me, open it when you're ready." "Not before," I'd nodded, too caught up in our daily routine to question it, and tucked it away in my bedroom. After his death, the funeral, the endless paperwork and the fog of grief, I'd forgotten it entirely. But now, sitting in that waiting room, surrounded by strangers and their own quiet struggles, it came back to me like a beacon. That envelope was waiting, a secret John had left, a lifeline I could feel pulling me from the dark. What was inside? Papers? Money? A message? I didn't know. But I knew John, my careful, brilliant John, who'd always planned for us, always protected me. Whatever it was my way out, my way to fight back. The nurse called my name, her voice cutting through my thoughts. I shuffled into the doctor's office, my mind racing, barely hearing his words. He checked my blood pressure, listened to my heart, his stethoscope cold against my skin. "You're healthy for 71. Mrs. Wilson," he said, his eyes kind but distracted. "Just need more rest, better meals?" "You've been through a lot," I nodded. My thoughts elsewhere, on Emily's icy voice, on Michael's smug face, on the envelope waiting at home. I left the clinic, the coastal air hitting me like a slap, sharp with salt and the promise of a storm. I walked to the bus stop, no truck to drive anymore, thanks to Emily. The humiliation burned like a fever. Everyone in town must know by now, whispering about poor Margaret. Abandoned by her daughter, left with nothing. I could picture them at the diner, the market, the library. Their voices low. "Did you hear? Emily sold her mama's house. Said she had to for Margaret's own good." The lie stung worse than the theft, painting me as weak, helpless, a burden. But as I waited for the bus, the ocean glinting in the distance, I smiled. A small, fierce thing that surprised even me. Emily thought she'd broken me, but John had left me something, and I was going to use it to make her see I was anything but broken. The bus rattled along Wilmington's outskirts, past clapboard houses with peeling paint, corner stores with faded signs, and the endless stretch of marsh and sea. People stared out the windows, lost in their own worlds, their own secrets, and I felt a strange kinship with them. We all carried hurts, battles, truths no one else saw. Mine was just beginning. I got home as the sun dipped low, painting the sky pink over the pines, and stood in my quiet house. The walls lined with photos of Emily, her gap-toothed grin at 5, her prom dress at 17, her wedding day with Michael, her smile so bright I'd thought it was love. I'd raised her in a trailer, John and I working long hours to give her a good life. I'd packed her lunches, cheered at her school plays, held her when she cried over boys. She'd been my everything, my only child. How had she turned so cold? Was it Michael, pushing her to see me as a means to an end? Or had she always been waiting, biding her time to take what was mine? I wanted to call her back, scream, demand answers. But she was already halfway to Paris, probably laughing with Michael, counting the money she'd stolen from me. The thought made my stomach churn. But that envelope, John's last gift, was a spark in the dark. I didn't go to the dresser yet. It felt too big, too heavy for that moment. Instead, I sat on the porch, the swing creaking under me, and watched the sunset bleed into the horizon. The town was talking, I knew it. Mrs. Ellis from the library had already called, her voice soft with pity, asking if it was true Emily sold my house. "You don't deserve this," she'd said. I'd thanked her, kept my voice steady, but inside I was a storm. I thought of the beach house, its porch where John and I danced under the stars, Emily giggling as she watched us. I thought of the truck, parked under the oak, John's hands polishing it with care. Emily had taken those pieces of us, sold them like they were nothing, but I wasn't nothing. I was Margaret Wilson, and I'd show her I was more than her lies. Whatever was in that envelope, it was my way to fight back, to make her face something she'd never expected. The ocean roared in the distance, a reminder that some things endure, no matter how fierce the storm. I wasn't broken, not yet, and I'd make sure Emily knew it. Emily's voice was still in my head, cold and sharp, like a knife. "I sold your beach house and your truck. Mom, we needed the money." She'd hung up without a second thought, leaving me sitting in that doctor's waiting room, my world turned upside down. And I'd given my daughter everything, 45 years of love, sacrifice, my whole heart, and she'd thrown it away like it was nothing. The hurt was heavy, like a stone in my chest, but I didn't cry. Something inside me, a spark I hadn't felt since John died, kept me going. That manila envelope he'd left in my dresser was my lifeline. A secret I hadn't opened yet, but knew could change everything. I was alone now, in a town that pitied me, but I wasn't ready to give up. Emily thought she'd left me with nothing, but she was wrong. Back home, the house felt too quiet, like it was holding its breath. The kitchen table, where John and I ate breakfast every morning, sat empty, his chair pushed in, the blue curtains he loved still hanging. I kept seeing Emily's face, her smile from when she'd visit after John's death, acting like she cared. She'd come by 3 times a week. Help with groceries, drive me around, tell me to see a doctor. "Mom, you gotta look after yourself," she'd say, her hand on mine. I thought it was love, but now I knew it was a lie. She'd been planning this, probably with Michael, her husband, who always acted like I was in the way. The beach house, our family's special place, and John's truck, his pride and joy, they weren't just things to me. They were memories, pieces of John, and she'd sold them for cash to run off to Paris. I felt sick thinking about it, but that sickness was turning into something else, something stronger. The town was talking, and it made everything worse. I'd walk to the store, past houses with peeling paint and yards full of crabgrass, and feel people staring. At the market, Mrs. Ellis, who'd known me forever, grabbed my arm. "Margaret, is it true Emily sold your beach house?" Her voice was soft, her eyes full of pity. I nodded, my throat tight. She said she needed the money. Mrs. Ellis shook her head. "You don't deserve that." "Honey." I thanked her and moved on. But I heard the whispers behind me. Poor Margaret. Left with nothing. Emily said her mom's too old to handle things. Too old? I was 71, not helpless. But Emily's lies were spreading fast, making me feel like a stranger in my own town. At the diner, 2 women I knew from church were talking over coffee. "Emily told me Margaret's not right in the head," one said. "Had to sell the house to help her." My face got hot, but I didn't say anything. I paid for my coffee and left, the words burning in my ears. I stopped going out unless I had to. The market, the post office, the gas station, it all felt like walking into a trap. People looked at me like I was broken, their voices soft, like they were talking to a sick person. I'd see Emily's car gone from her apartment across town, and I'd wonder if she was already in Paris. Laughing with Michael, spending the money she stole. The beach house was our place. John and I saved for years to buy it when Emily was 15. We'd spend summers there, grilling fish, throwing birthday parties, decorating for Christmas with lights that sparkled on the water. Emily brought friends, then Michael, and I'd cook for them, clean up, make it a home. John's truck was the same, his old Ford, always parked under the oak tree. He'd wash it every Sunday, the hose spraying water everywhere, and I'd laugh when he got me wet. Emily knew how much that truck meant, how it still smelled like him, like oil and the sea. She didn't care. She sold it all, and I was left with nothing but hurt. One morning I couldn't take the quiet anymore. The house was too still, the walls closing in. I went to the backyard, where the garden John and I used to work on was a mess. Weeds choking the roses. Emily used to play there as a kid, picking flowers, laughing. I started pulling weeds, my hands in the dirt, the work calming me down. That's when Helen Carter, my best friend since we were young, showed up at the fence. "Margaret, you're gonna ruin your hands," she said. Her gray hair pulled back, a glass of sweet tea in her hand. She came over, sat on the porch steps, and looked at me like she knew everything. "What's going on, honey?" she asked. I didn't want to talk, but her face so kind made me open up. "Emily sold the beach house in the truck," I said, my voice shaking. "She's gone to Paris with Michael. Left me with nothing." Helen's eyes got hard. "That's not right, Margaret. She's your daughter. You raised her better." She handed me the tea. "You're stronger than this. You used to help at the library, remember? You were good at it. Maybe it's time to get back out there." Her words hit me. I'd volunteered at the library years ago, reading to kids, helping with book clubs. Emily used to sit there, listening to my stories. I'd stopped when John got sick, but maybe Helen was right. Maybe I needed something to hold on to. That night, I got a notebook from the attic, an old one with blank pages. I started writing about Emily's call. The beach house, the truck, the way the town looked at me. It was messy, just words spilling out, but it felt good, like I was letting the pain out. I wrote about John, too, how he'd smile when we worked in the garden, how he'd hold my hand at the beach house. I wrote about the envelope, still unopened, sitting in my dresser. I was scared to look inside, but I knew it was important. John was smart, always planning ahead. Whatever was in there, it was my way to fight back. The next day, I went to the library, a small building by the harbor with windows that showed the boats bobbing on the water. Mrs. Ellis was there, sorting books, and she smiled when she saw me. "Margaret, it's been too long," she said. I asked if they needed volunteers, my voice nervous. "Always," she said, handing me a schedule. "You were the best reader we had." I signed up for a kids' reading group, feeling a little lighter. As I left, I heard two women at the counter, their voices low. "Emily said Margaret's not all there," one whispered. "That's why she sold the house." I wanted to yell, tell them Emily was lying, but I kept walking, my notebook in my bag, my heart racing. They didn't know the truth, but I would show them. That night, I couldn't wait anymore. I went to my bedroom, the house dark and quiet, and pulled the manila envelope from the dresser. My hands shook as I sat on the bed John and I shared for years. His handwriting was on the front, my name in neat letters. I opened it slow, like it might break me. Inside were papers, legal stuff, deeds, bank statements, and a letter from John. My eyes filled with tears as I read. "Margaret, my love, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I didn't tell you about this because I wanted to keep you safe. I invested our money in properties and businesses. We don't just have the beach house. We own 6 other places, including the apartment building where Emily and Michael live. There's shares in companies, too. You're rich, Margaret, and you always were in my eyes." I couldn't breathe. Looking at the deeds, houses in Wilmington, a loft downtown, a small inn by the coast, and the big apartment complex where Emily lived. John, my mechanic husband, had built a fortune, and I was in charge of it all. He'd kept it secret so Emily would love us for us, not the money. I laughed, a shaky sound, because Emily had sold my home thinking I had nothing, when I had everything. I sat there, papers all over the bed, my mind spinning. Emily's betrayal hurt worse now, knowing what she'd tried to take. But John's letter, his love, his trust in me, it was like he was there telling me to stand up. I wasn't the weak woman she thought I was. I was Margaret Wilson, and I'd make her see that, one way or another. Emily's betrayal was like a cut that wouldn't heal. Her cold voice, "I sold your beach house and your truck." "Mom," stuck in my head like a bad song. The town's gossip was eating me alive, everyone whispering that I was too old, too weak to handle my own life. But finding John's manila envelope, full of deeds to properties and a fortune I never knew about, changed something in me. It was like John was still here, giving me a way to fight back. My journal was filling up with my hurt and anger, and volunteering at the library was giving me a purpose. I wasn't the broken widow Emily wanted everyone to see. I was ready to start taking back what was mine, and I'd make sure she felt it. The town was still talking, their words following me like a shadow. I'd walk to the market, past houses with sagging porches and salt-stained fences, and hear people whispering. At the corner store, Mrs. Carter, a neighbor who'd known me for years, grabbed my hand. "Margaret, I heard Emily sold your beach house because you couldn't manage it," she said, her voice all soft and sorry. I forced a smile, my stomach twisting. "She needed the money," I said, keeping it short. Mrs. Carter shook her head. "That's awful, honey. You don't deserve this." I nodded and got out of there fast, but her pity stuck with me. Everywhere I went, the diner, the post office, the gas station, people gave me that same look, like I was some sad old lady. I overheard 2 women at the diner, their coffee cups clinking. "Emily said her mom's losing it," one whispered. "Had to sell the house to take care of her." Losing it? I wanted to yell that Emily was lying, that she'd stolen from me, but I kept my mouth shut. I had a plan, and I wasn't going to let their gossip stop me. The library was my safe place now. I'd started volunteering there after Helen. My best friend pushed me to get out of the house. The first time I read to the kids, my hands shook. But their big eyes and giggles made me feel alive again. I was reading them a story about a brave fisherman, and they leaned in, hanging on every word. After, a little girl with pigtails hugged me. "You're the best storyteller, Miss Margaret," she said. It was like a piece of my heart clicked back into place. "Mrs. Ellis." The librarian pulled me aside. "You're a natural, Margaret. We need you here." I signed up for more sessions, twice a week, and even started helping with a book club for adults. People were starting to look at me different, not just with pity, but with respect. But not everyone. At a book club meeting, I overheard a woman, Mrs. Harper, talking to another. "Emily told me Margaret's too frail to live alone," she said. "That's why she sold the house." I froze, my hands gripping a stack of books. I wanted to tell her the truth, but I just smiled and kept going. I wasn't ready to show my cards yet. Helen came over one evening, bringing a plate of fried chicken, the smell filling my kitchen. We sat at the table, the one John and I used for years, and I told her everything. Emily's call, the town's gossip, the envelope. "She's telling everyone I'm unstable," I said, my voice shaking. "She sold everything John and I worked for." Helen's face got hard. "That girl's got no shame, Margaret. But you've got something she doesn't know about." I nodded, telling her about the envelope, deeds to 6 properties, including the apartment building where Emily and Michael lived, and shares in companies. John had kept it all secret to protect me, to make sure Emily loved us for us, not money. Helen's eyes went wide. "John was smart as anything," she said. "You're rich, Margaret, and Emily's got no idea. What are you going to do?" I didn't know yet, but talking to Helen made me feel stronger, like I could take on whatever came next. The next morning, I called Mr. Thompson, John's lawyer. His office was downtown in a brick building by the Cape Fear River, with windows that showed fishing boats rocking on the water. I wore my best dress, the gray one John always liked, and brought the envelope and my journal. Mr. Thompson looked at the papers, his glasses slipping down his nose. "Mrs. Wilson, this is incredible," he said. "John built a fortune. 6 properties, company shares, all in your name. The beach house sale was illegal. Emily had no right to do it." I leaned forward. "Can you get it back? And the truck?" He nodded. "The beach house is easy. We can prove it was fraud. The truck's trickier. She used a power of attorney you signed after John died. But if you signed it when you were grieving, we can argue it wasn't valid." I remembered those papers, Emily handing them to me, saying they were for the funeral. I'd been so lost I didn't read them. Now I saw how she'd planned it all. "Get it all back," I said, my voice steady. "But do it quiet. No one can know yet, especially Emily." Mr. Thompson looked at me, curious but agreed. "It'll take a few weeks, but it's doable. What else do you need?" I thought of the apartment building, where Emily and Michael lived, not knowing I owned it. "I want control of everything," I said. "Especially that building." Leaving his office, I felt different, like I was waking up. The river sparkled outside, the air sharp with salt. I walked home, past the harbor where seagulls screeched, and thought about Emily. She was in Paris, probably spending my money, thinking she'd won. But I was starting to see her plan. I checked my bank account online, something I hadn't done in months, and saw withdrawals I didn't make. Thousands gone, all after John died. Emily had access, saying she was helping me. It wasn't just the house and truck. She'd been taking money for a while. The betrayal hit harder, but it also made me mad, made me want to fight. At the library, my reading group was getting bigger. Kids brought their parents, and some older folks joined too. One day a man came up to me, his face nervous. "Mrs. Wilson, I'm the one who bought your truck," he said. "I didn't know it wasn't legal. Emily said you were sick, needed the money fast." My heart sank, but I kept calm. "I'm not sick," I said. "I didn't know she sold it." He looked sorry, said he'd help if he could. It was another piece of Emily's lies falling apart. I started writing more in my journal, about the library, the kids, John's love, Emily's betrayal. It was like I was finding myself again, not just the widow everyone pitied. One afternoon, Helen came by, her eyes bright with news. "Heard Emily and Michael are having trouble in Paris," she said. "Something about his business not working out." I nodded, not surprised. Michael always seemed like a talker, not a doer. It made me think, when they came back, they'd find out I wasn't the weak old lady they thought. I looked at John's picture on the wall, him smiling by the truck, and felt him with me. I wasn't alone. I had the library, Helen, and John's secret fortune. I was ready to take the next step, to make Emily see she couldn't break me. But Emily's lies were spreading faster than gossip at the diner, her words painting me as a crazy old lady who couldn't handle her own life. She'd sold my beach house and John's truck, thinking she'd left me with nothing. But I was finding my strength. The library, where I read to kids and helped with book clubs, was giving me a purpose and John's secret fortune, deeds to properties, including the apartment building where Emily and Michael lived, was my weapon. The town near Wilmington, North Carolina, was still buzzing with whispers, but some folks were starting to see me differently. Thanks to my work at the library, I was done hiding. I was ready to face Emily, to show her I wasn't the weak woman she wanted everyone to believe. Everywhere I went, the gossip followed. At the market, picking up milk and bread, I'd hear people talking behind their hands. Emily said her mom's not all there, a woman told the cashier, her voice low like she was sharing a secret. Had to sell the house to take care of her. My face got hot, but I kept my head up, paid for my groceries, and walked out. The words stung, like salt in a cut, but they also made me mad. I wasn't losing it. I was 71, not some helpless case. Emily was the one who'd stolen from me, and the town was eating up her lies. At the post office, Mr. Davis, who'd known me since I moved here, gave me that pity look. "Heard about the beach house, Margaret," he said, handing me my mail. "You doing okay?" I nodded, forcing a smile. "I'm fine, thanks." But inside I was burning. I wanted to scream the truth. Tell everyone Emily was a liar. But I had to be smart. Mr. Thompson, my lawyer, was working on getting my beach house and truck back, and I wasn't going to ruin that by losing my temper. The library was my safe spot, where I could forget the whispers for a while. I was reading to kids twice a week now, their little faces lighting up when I told stories about pirates or fishermen. One boy, maybe 7 with messy hair, stayed after a session. "You make the stories fun, Miss Margaret," he said, handing me a drawing of a boat. I kept that drawing, tucked it in my journal, where I wrote everything: Emily's betrayal, the town's gossip, John's love. The book club was growing too, with older folks and some parents joining. Mrs. Ellis, the librarian, said I was bringing the place to life. "You've got a gift," she told me, her smile warm. But not everyone saw it that way. At a book club meeting, I overheard Mrs. Harper, who used to be friendly, talking to another woman. "Emily said Margaret's too old to live alone," she whispered. "That's why she sold the house." I froze, my hands shaking as I stacked books. I wanted to call her out, but I just kept working, pretending I didn't hear. I wasn't ready to show my hand, not yet. One evening my phone rang while I was eating dinner. Chicken and rice, the kind John used to make. It was Emily, calling from Paris, her voice all sweet, like nothing was wrong. "Hey, Mom, just checking on you," she said. My stomach twisted, but I kept my voice calm. "Why'd you tell people I'm unstable, Emily? That I can't handle my own life?" There was a long pause, then she laughed, sharp and mean. "Come on, Mom, don't make a big deal out of it." I had to say something to explain the house. "You weren't doing good after Dad died. I was helping you." "Helping me?" I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles hurt. "You sold my beach house, John's truck, without asking," I said. "You took everything." Her voice got cold. "You're blowing this out of proportion. We needed the money for Michael's business. You got 30%. That's enough for you. Just relax, okay? We'll figure it out when we're back." I took a deep breath. "You don't know me, Emily," I said, low and steady. "You're going to find out." She laughed again, like I was a joke. "Mom, don't be dramatic. We'll talk later." She hung up, and I sat there shaking, not with fear but with anger. She thought I was nothing, but I was about to prove her wrong. I called Mr. Thompson the next morning, my hands still shaky from the call with Emily. His office by the Cape Fear River smelled like old books and coffee. I brought my journal and the envelope's papers, spreading them on his desk. "Any news?" I asked. He pushed his glasses up, looking serious. "The beach house sale's been canceled," he said. "It was illegal. Emily had no right. The buyers got their money back, and the deed's in your name again." My heart jumped. A piece of John's legacy back where it belonged. "The truck's almost done," he added. "We're proving the power of attorney was signed when you were grieving. So it's not valid. I know the buyer. He'll return it for a small fee." I nodded, relief mixing with determination. "What about the apartment building?" I asked, thinking of Emily and Michael, living in my property, clueless. "You're in full control," he said. "They don't know you own it. Everything's quiet like you wanted." I leaned back, a plan forming. Keep it that way, I said. I'm not ready for them to know. Walking out, the river sparkled under the sun, fishing boats bobbing along the docks. I felt stronger, like I was starting to take my life back. At home, I looked through John's papers again, finding more bank statements. There were withdrawals I didn't make, thousands gone, all after John died. I called the bank, acting like I was just checking my account, and the teller confirmed Emily had access, saying she was managing my money. She'd been stealing for months, not just the house and truck. It wasn't just a quick grab. It was a plan, probably with Michael pushing her. The hurt was deep, but it made me want to fight harder. The library was getting busier, my reading group pulling in more kids and parents. One day, a woman named Mrs. Jenkins, who'd joined the book club, stopped me. "Margaret, I don't believe what Emily's saying," she said. "You're sharp as a tack. Keep doing what you're doing." Her words felt like a hug, like the town was starting to see me again. But the gossip wasn't gone. At the market, I heard a man buying fish say, "Emily had to sell her mom's stuff because she's not all there." I walked away, my journal heavy in my bag. I was writing more now, about the library, the kids, John's smile, Emily's lies. It was like I was building something, a way to stand up. Helen came over one afternoon, her eyes full of news. "Word is, Michael's business in Paris is falling apart," she said, sitting on my porch with a glass of tea. "They might be back soon." I nodded, my mind racing. Emily thought she'd won, but I was ready to show her I wasn't the woman she thought. I looked at John's picture, him by the beach house, and felt him with me. I wasn't alone anymore. I had the library, Helen, and John's fortune. I was going to make Emily face the truth, and it was going to hit her hard. Emily's cold laugh from our phone call was like a slap. Her words, "Don't be dramatic, Mom," ringing in my head. She'd sold my beach house and John's truck, thinking she could paint me as a crazy old lady and get away with it. But I was fighting back, step by step. The library, where I read to kids and ran a book club, was showing the town I wasn't the weak woman Emily described. Mr. Thompson, my lawyer, had already gotten the beach house back, and John's secret fortune, properties, including the apartment building where Emily and Michael lived, was giving me power she didn't know about. The whispers in our small town near Wilmington, North Carolina, were starting to change. Some folks seeing me for who I was. I was done letting Emily's lies define me. I was building something, and she was going to see I wasn't broken. The library was my lifeline now. Every Tuesday and Thursday, I'd read to a group of kids, their eyes wide as I told stories about shipwrecks and brave sailors. Their laughs, the way they'd beg for one more, made me feel alive again. The book club was growing too, with older folks and parents packing the room, talking about books and life. One evening, as I was setting up chairs by the library's big windows, the harbor outside glowing under the sunset, Mrs. Jenkins, a book club regular, grabbed my arm. "You're doing good here, Margaret," she said, her voice firm. "Don't let those rumors get to you. We know Emily's not telling the truth." Her words hit me hard, like a hug I didn't expect. But not everyone was on my side. At the same meeting, I overheard Mrs. Harper, who'd been spreading Emily's lies, talking to a new member. "Emily had to sell the house because her mom can't manage," she said, her voice low but clear. My hands shook, stacking books, and I couldn't take it anymore. I walked over, my heart pounding but my voice steady. "Mrs. Harper, that's not true," I said, loud enough for the room to hear. "Emily sold my house without asking. I'm not the one who's lost it." The room went quiet, everyone staring. Mrs. Harper's face turned red, and she mumbled something. But Mrs. Jenkins nodded at me, proud. "Good for you," she whispered. For the first time, I felt the town's eyes shift, some of them seeing me, not Emily's story. The next morning, I called Mr. Thompson, needing to know where things stood. I met him at his office downtown, the Cape Fear River sparkling outside, fishing boats rocking on the water. I brought my journal and John's papers, my hands steady now. "The truck's yours again," he said, leaning back in his chair. "The buyer returned it after we proved Emily's power of attorney. Was signed when you were grieving, too upset to know what you were signing. It's parked at a lot nearby, ready for you." My heart lifted, thinking of John's Ford, its leather seats, the way it still smelled like him. "The beach house is secure too," he added. "Deeds in your name, no issues." I nodded, a weight coming off me. "What about the apartment building?" I asked, thinking of Emily and Michael, living there. Clueless, I owned it. You've got full control, he said. They don't know a thing. What do you want to do? I took a deep breath. Get an eviction notice ready for their apartment, I said. Don't send it yet. I want it ready for when they're back from Paris. He raised an eyebrow but wrote it down. It'll be ready when you say go, he said. I thanked him, my mind racing. Emily thought she'd won, but I was setting the stage for something big. I drove to the beach house that afternoon. The keys Mr. Thompson gave me heavy in my hand. The house looked the same. White paint chipped, porch creaking, the ocean roaring behind it. I walked inside, the smell of salt and cedar hitting me like a memory. John and I used to sit on that porch, watching sunsets. Emily running in from the beach as a kid, her hair full of sand. I sat on the steps, my journal open, and wrote about it. John's laugh. Emily's smile back then, the way it all felt like family. Now she'd sold this place, thinking it was just money. I wrote about my anger, my plan, the eviction notice waiting. It felt good, like I was taking control. The waves crashed, steady and loud, like they were cheering me on. Back at the library, my reading group was packed. Kids spilling onto the floor, parents standing in the back. I told a story about a woman who fought a storm and won, and the kids clapped, their parents smiling. After, a man named Mr. Turner, who I'd seen at the market, came up. I heard what you said to Mrs. Harper, he said. You're not what Emily's saying. Keep it up. His words were like fuel pushing me forward. The town was starting to turn, not all at once, but enough to make me feel seen. But the gossip wasn't gone. At the diner, I heard two men talking over fried fish. Emily said her mom's not right in the head, one said. Had to sell everything to help her. I walked out. My journal heavy in my bag, my anger sharper than ever. Helen came over one evening, bringing a casserole, the smell filling my kitchen. We sat on the porch, the air cool, the ocean humming in the distance. Heard some news, she said, her eyes bright. Emily and Michael are in trouble in Paris. Michael's business deal fell apart. And they're broke. Might be back soon? I nodded, not surprised. Michael always seemed like a talker, not someone who could pull off a big deal. They don't know what's coming, I said, my voice calm but strong. Helen grinned. You're going to make them see, aren't you? I nodded, thinking of the eviction notice, the truck, the beach house. I was planning something bigger. 2, a charity for widows. Using John's fortune to help women like me who'd been hurt, left behind. I told Helen about it, how I'd fund it with the money from the properties. John would love that, she said, squeezing my hand. You're doing him proud. I started working on the charity, writing ideas in my journal, classes, support groups, a place for women to feel strong again. I met with Mrs. Ellis at the library, telling her my plan. That's beautiful, Margaret, she said. This town needs it, and you're the one to make it happen. I felt John with me, his smile in my heart, pushing me to keep going. Emily thought she'd taken everything, but I was building something she couldn't touch. She was coming back soon, and when she did, she'd find out I wasn't the woman she thought. I was ready to make her face the truth, and it was going to hit her like a wave she couldn't outrun. Word got around fast that Emily and Michael were back. Helen called me that morning, her voice buzzing with news as I sat at my kitchen table, sipping coffee. They landed last night, she said. Michael's in a bad way. His business deal in Paris fell apart, and they're flat broke. Emily's been calling people, asking for help. I nodded, not surprised. Michael always talked big, but I never trusted him. I pictured Emily, her smug smile gone, scrambling to fix the mess they'd made. They're at their apartment, Helen added. Don't know what they're planning, but they're in trouble. I thanked her, my mind racing. The eviction notice was sitting with Mr. Thompson, ready to go. I called him right away. Send it, I said, my voice steady. I want it delivered today. He paused, like he was making sure. You're certain? He asked. Yes, I said. They need to know who they're dealing with. Said it'd be at their apartment by noon. Signed with my name as the owner. I hung up, my heart pounding, but not with fear, with purpose. Emily was about to find out I wasn't the woman she'd tried to erase. I drove to the library, the ocean air sharp through my open window, the harbor sparkling under the morning sun. My reading group was bigger than ever, kids crowding the rug, parents leaning against the walls. I told a story about a woman who outsmarted a thief, and the kids cheered when she won. After, a mom named Mrs. Turner came up. "You're amazing with them," she said. "The town's starting to see you're not what Emily's been saying." Her words felt good, like a step forward. The book club was packed too, with folks talking about books but also about me, how I was doing good, how Emily's story didn't add up. But some still believed her. At the market later, I overheard a man buying shrimp. "Emily said her mom's too old to be on her own," he told the cashier. "Had to sell the house to help." I walked out, my journal in my bag, my anger hot. I wasn't going to let those lies stick much longer. That afternoon, Emily showed up at my house, unannounced. I was in the backyard, pulling weeds from the garden John and I used to love. When I heard her car pull up, she walked through the gate, her face tired, her brown hair messy, not the polished Emily I knew. "Mom, we need to talk," she said, her voice shaky but trying to sound sweet. I stood up, brushing dirt off my hands, and looked at her. "What do you want, Emily?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. She stepped closer, her eyes darting. "I got this eviction notice," she said, holding up a paper, my name on it as the owner. "It's got to be a mistake. Why would you do this?" I didn't flinch. "No mistake," I said. "You sold my beach house, my truck, and told everyone I'm crazy. You thought I had nothing. You were wrong." Her face went pale, like she'd been slapped. "Mom, I was helping you," she said, her voice rising. "Michael needed the money for his business. We were going to pay you back." I laughed, a hard sound. "You lied to me, to the town? You're not helping anyone but yourself." She stepped closer, desperate now. "Please, Mom, we're broke. Michael's deal fell apart. We don't have anywhere to go." I looked at her, the girl I'd raised, and saw a stranger. "You made your choice," I said. "Now face it." She stared, tears in her eyes. But I turned back to the garden, done talking. She left, her car peeling out, and I felt a strange calm. The eviction notice was real, and she knew it. I went to the beach house that evening, needing to feel John with me. The porch creaked under my feet, the ocean loud and steady. I sat there, my journal open, writing about Emily's visit, her fake tears, the way she thought she could talk her way out. I wrote about John, how we'd dance on this porch, his arms warm around me, Emily watching as a kid, laughing. Those memories were mine again, not hers to sell. I wrote about the charity I was planning, a way to use John's fortune to help widows like me, women who'd been hurt but could stand up again. I'd started talking to Mrs. Ellis at the library, sketching out ideas, support groups, job help, a place to feel strong. She loved it, said it'd be a game changer for the town. I felt John's pride in me, like he was watching. The town was shifting more now. At a library event that weekend, a big reading night with kids and parents, people crowded in, the room warm with chatter. I read a story about a woman who rebuilt her life after losing everything. And the applause was loud, real. After, Mr. Davis from the market came up. "I'm sorry I believed Emily's story," he said. "You're not what she said. You're doing good here." His words were like a weight lifting. But some folks still whispered. At the diner, I heard a woman say, "Emily's back, saying her mom's kicking her out for no reason." I let it go, knowing the truth was coming out. Helen came by the next day, her eyes wide with gossip. "Emily's telling people you're being unfair," she said, sitting on my porch with a glass of tea. "But folks aren't buying it like before. They're talking about you, how you're helping at the library." I nodded, feeling stronger. Emily was scrambling, but I was ready. The eviction notice was just the start. I was building something bigger, a life, a legacy. And Emily was going to see she couldn't break me. The ocean hummed in the distance, like it was telling me to keep going, and I knew I would. Emily's desperate face from our backyard confrontation was burned in my mind. Her fake tears and shaky voice begging for forgiveness, like she could talk her way out of the eviction notice I'd sent. She'd sold my beach house and John's truck, told the town I was crazy and thought she'd get away with it. But the truth was coming out. The library, where I read to kids and ran a book club, was showing people I wasn't the weak woman she'd described. Mr. Thompson had gotten the beach house back, and the apartment building where Emily and Michael lived was mine to control. Their Paris trip had crashed, leaving them broke, and the eviction notice was just the start. I was done letting Emily's lies run my life. In our small town near Wilmington, North Carolina, people were starting to see her for who she was, and I was ready to take back everything she'd tried to steal. The town was buzzing with talk about Emily and Michael's return. I heard it everywhere, at the market, the diner, even the library. People weren't just whispering about me anymore. They were questioning Emily's story. At the grocery store, picking up eggs and milk, I overheard two women by the bread aisle. Emily saying her mom's being unfair. "Kicking them out," one said. But the other shook her head. "I don't know. Margaret's doing good at the library. Doesn't seem crazy to me." I kept my head down, hiding a small smile, but it felt good, like the tide was turning. Not everyone was on my side yet. At the post office, a man I knew from church gave me that pity look. "Heard you're making Emily leave her apartment," he said, his voice soft. "That true?" I nodded, keeping it short. "She sold my house and truck without asking. I'm just taking back what's mine." He looked surprised, like he was seeing me for the first time, and didn't say anything else. I walked out, feeling stronger, the salty air from the harbor filling my lungs. The library was my anchor now. My reading group was so big we had to move to a bigger room. Kids sitting cross-legged on the floor. Parents crowded in the back. I told a story about a woman who stood up to a liar, and the kids clapped. Their parents nodding like they knew I was talking about more than the story. After Mrs. Jenkins, who'd backed me up before, pulled me aside. "The town's talking about you, Margaret, but it's good talk now," she said. "People are saying Emily made it all up, that you're not what she said." Her words were like a warm blanket, wrapping around the hurt Emily had caused. The book club was packed too, with folks staying late to talk about books and life. One night, Mr. Turner, who'd apologized for believing Emily, brought his wife. "You're changing things around here," he said, his voice quiet but sure. "Keep it up." I nodded, my throat tight. The town wasn't all the way there, but it was getting closer. Mr. Thompson called me one morning, his voice upbeat. "The truck's ready for you," he said. "It's at a lot on the edge of town. The buyer's been paid back, and it's all yours." My heart jumped, thinking of John's Ford, its blue paint, the way it felt like him. I drove to the lot that afternoon, the ocean humming in the distance, the air thick with salt. The truck was there, parked under a tree, just like John used to leave it. I ran my hand over the hood, the leather seats still smelling like grease and coffee. His smell. I sat inside, gripping the steering wheel, and closed my eyes. I could almost hear John's laugh, feel his hand on mine. "You got this, Margaret," he'd say. I drove it home, slow, through the streets of Wilmington, past houses with crabgrass lawns and boats tied up at the docks. People stared, some waving, like they knew what the truck meant. I parked it under our oak tree, right where John always did, and wrote about it in my journal, how it felt to take back a piece of him, of us. Emily wasn't giving up. She showed up at my house again, this time with Michael, both looking like they hadn't slept in days. I was on the porch, drinking tea, when their car pulled up. Emily walked up first, her face tight, Michael behind her, his usual smug look gone. "Mom, please," she said, her voice cracking. "The eviction notice? You can't do this. We don't have anywhere to go." Michael nodded, his hands in his pockets. "It was a mistake, Margaret," he said, using my name like we were friends. "The business didn't work out. We'll pay you back." I stood up, looking them in the eyes. "You sold my beach house, my truck, and told everyone I'm crazy," I said, my voice steady. "You didn't make a mistake. You made a choice." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "But I'd seen her act before. We were trying to help," she said. "You weren't doing good after Dad died." I shook my head. "You don't get to decide that. You're out in 30 days. Figure it out." Michael stepped forward, his face red. "You're being cruel," he said. I looked at him, calm. "You don't know me," I said. "Get off my property." They left, Emily crying, Michael muttering, but I didn't feel bad. They'd made their bed and I was done fixing it for them. The charity was coming together. I met with Mrs. Ellis at the library, going over plans, support groups for widows, job training, a place for women to feel strong again. "This is big, Margaret," she said, her eyes bright. "The town's behind you." I started talking to local leaders, people from church and the community center, about funding it with John's properties. The apartment building alone brought in enough to start something real. I wrote about it in my journal, how it felt to build something good out of the pain Emily caused. I wrote about John, too, how he'd smile at this, knowing I was using his gift to help others. The town was turning faster now. The local paper ran a story about my library work, calling me a community light, with a picture of me reading to kids. People stopped me at the market, not with pity, but with smiles. "You're doing good, Margaret," a woman said, bagging my groceries. But some still held on to Emily's lies. At the diner, I heard a man say, "Emily's saying her mom's gone too far, kicking them out." I let it go. Knowing the truth was winning. I drove the truck to the beach house one evening, the sunset pink over the ocean, and sat on the porch, feeling John with me. Emily was desperate, but I was stronger. She tried to take everything, but I was taking it back. And she was about to learn what that meant. Emily's desperate pleas on my porch, her tears and Michael's weak excuses were the last straw. She'd sold my beach house and John's truck, told the whole town I was crazy, and thought she could walk away with everything. But I'd fought back. The library, where I read to kids and ran a book club, had shown people I wasn't the weak woman she'd painted. Mr. Thompson had gotten my beach house and truck back, and the apartment building where Emily and Michael lived was mine to control. Their Paris trip had crashed, leaving them broke and evicted, and the town near Wilmington, North Carolina, was finally seeing the truth. I'd built something stronger than Emily's lies, a charity for widows, a new purpose, and I was ready to show everyone, including her, who I really was. This was my moment, and I was going to make it count. The town was alive with talk about Emily and Michael. At the market, picking up apples and bread, I heard people whispering, but it wasn't about me anymore. "Emily's been lying," a woman told the cashier, her voice sharp. "Margaret's not crazy. She's doing good things." I kept my head down, but my heart lifted. The gossip was turning fast. At the diner, where I used to hear Emily's lies repeated, two men over coffee were talking. "Heard Emily and Michael got kicked out of their apartment," one said. "Turns out Margaret owns the place." The other nodded. "She's not what Emily said. Never was." I paid for my coffee, my hand steady, and walked out, feeling like I was standing taller. The town wasn't all on my side yet, but it was close. People stopped me on the street, not with pity, but with smiles. "You're doing great at the library," a woman from church said, squeezing my arm. "We're proud of you." Those words were like fuel, pushing me to finish what I'd started. The charity was my big plan, and it was coming together. I'd been working with Mrs. Ellis at the library, planning a big launch event at the community center by the harbor. The idea was simple, a place for widows to get help, learn skills, find strength, funded by the money from John's properties. I'd spent weeks writing plans in my journal, meeting with town leaders, even talking to the mayor's office. The apartment building alone brought in enough to make it real, and I wanted it to be something John would be proud of. Mrs. Ellis helped me set up the event, inviting everyone, library folks, church members, neighbors. "This is your moment, Margaret," she said, her eyes bright. "The town's ready to see you shine." I nodded, feeling John's love in my heart, like he was right there with me. The day of the event came, a warm Saturday with the ocean breeze blowing through town. The community center was packed, tables covered with food, fried chicken, coleslaw, sweet tea, donated by locals who'd heard about my work. The room smelled like salt air and home cooking, the harbor sparkling outside the big windows. I stood at the front, my hands shaky but my voice steady, and looked out at the crowd, kids from my reading group, book club members, even people who'd believed Emily's lies once. "Thank you for coming," I said, my words simple. "I'm starting a charity for widows, to help women who've lost everything find their way back. It's funded by my husband's investments, and it's for all of us who've been hurt but aren't broken." The room erupted in applause, loud and real, faces smiling, not pitying. Mrs. Jenkins stood up, clapping hard. "You're a blessing." "Margaret," she called out, and others nodded, some wiping tears. Mr. Turner, who'd apologized for believing Emily, shouted, "We're with you!" I felt John's pride, like he was standing beside me, his hand on mine. The local paper was there, taking pictures, and the next day they ran a story. "Local Widow Launches Charity, Proves Strength." It had a photo of me at the podium, smiling, the harbor behind me. People stopped me at the market, the post office, the diner, saying they'd read it, saying they were proud. The whispers about Emily were dying out, replaced by talk about me, what I was doing, how I was helping. But some folks still held on to her story. At the library, I overheard a woman say, "Emily's telling people her mom's gone too far." Kicking them out, I let it go. Knowing the truth was louder now, Emily and Michael were falling apart. Helen called me the next day, her voice full of gossip. "They're moving out," she said. "Saw them packing their car at the apartment building. Emily's crying to anyone who'll listen, but nobody's buying it anymore." I nodded, picturing Emily's face when she got the eviction notice, my name on it as the owner. She'd tried calling me, leaving voicemails. Her voice shaky. "Mom, please, let's talk. We can fix this." I didn't call back. She'd made her choice. Selling my beach house, my truck, telling lies to the town. Now she was facing the consequences, and I wasn't going to save her. I drove the truck to the beach house one evening, the sunset painting the sky pink over the ocean. I parked under the oak tree, just like John used to, and walked inside, the smell of cedar and salt wrapping around me. I sat on the porch, my journal open, writing about the charity, the town's support, Emily's downfall. I wrote about John, how we'd laugh here, grill fish, watch Emily play in the waves as a kid. Those memories were mine again, not hers to sell. I felt peace, like I'd taken back everything she'd tried to steal, my home, my truck, my name. Emily and Michael left town a few days later, their car packed with boxes, no goodbyes. I heard they were moving inland, starting over with nothing. I didn't feel sorry. They'd tried to break me, but I'd come out stronger. The charity was growing fast. I started classes at the community center, teaching widows how to manage money, find jobs, feel strong again. Women came from all over, sharing their stories. Husbands gone, kids who'd hurt them, lives they were rebuilding. I listened, hugged them, told them they weren't alone. The town was behind me now, the library packed every week. My reading group and book club bigger than ever. People called me a heroine, but I was just me, doing what John would have wanted. I drove to the beach house every Sunday, sat on the porch, and felt him with me. His love in every wave, every breeze. Hey, my dear friends, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. I want to know. Has someone ever betrayed you like this? Share your story. I read every single one. Hit that like button, subscribe, and join AuntyMaeDiary. We've got more stories coming. Women who turned pain into power, just like this. Don't miss the next one.